Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world full of diverse personalities, motivations, and intentions. Among us, there are people with good hearts, but sadly, there are also individuals who harbor malevolent intentions. While it's essential to avoid generalizing or labeling people too hastily, it's equally crucial to be aware of signs that someone might not have your best interests at heart. Today, I will share with you how to spot an evil person, someone whose intentions and actions are harmful to others. One of the most alarming and significant signs of an evil person is their constant manipulation. Manipulation is a subtle and insidious tactic used to control others, and often it goes unnoticed until it's too late. Evil individuals are masters at twisting situations to their advantage, and they do this with the intent to make others feel guilty, confused, or dependent on them. In many cases, the manipulator will create scenarios in which you question your own judgment, making you feel as if you're the one in the wrong. They might use phrases like, "You're overreacting," or "You always misunderstand me," to deflect responsibility from their own behavior. This type of psychological manipulation is designed to erode your confidence and make you doubt your own perceptions, which in turn makes you more susceptible to their influence. Sometimes they may even play the victim. For instance, if something goes wrong, they may shift the blame entirely onto you, even if they were the ones who caused the problem in the first place. Through this tactic, they can make you feel responsible for issues that have nothing to do with you. The end goal of this manipulation is to maintain control over you, making you feel as though you owe them something or that they are the only ones who can help or save you from the very situations they put you in. Even when you try to confront them or address their behavior, they will often use diversion tactics to avoid taking accountability. They might tell you things like, "You don't know what it's like to be in my position," or "I'm just trying to help you and you're not appreciating it." This not only shifts the focus away from their wrongdoings, but also makes you feel guilty for bringing up valid concerns. They will rarely acknowledge their flaws or mistakes, because doing so would undermine their control over the situation. An evil person doesn't just manipulate in one isolated instance. It's a consistent pattern of behavior. They may use charm to draw you in, make you feel special or important, and then slowly begin to manipulate your thoughts and decisions. Over time, you may find yourself agreeing with them even when deep down you know it's not right. This manipulation doesn't only happen in big, obvious ways. It can be as subtle as making you question your worth or even your moral compass. As this pattern continues, you might become more isolated from others who could provide support or a fresh perspective. The manipulator may even try to convince you that the people around you are wrong or that they don't truly care about you the way they do. Through this strategic isolation, they ensure that you rely solely on them, thus increasing their influence and power over you. Another critical sign of an evil person is their glaring lack of empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, and it serves as a cornerstone of healthy relationships and moral behavior. It enables people to connect with each other on a deeper level, to offer compassion and support when needed, and to refrain from causing harm intentionally. However, an evil person has little to no regard for the emotions or suffering of others. Their lack of empathy is not just a passive absence of care, it is often accompanied by an active indifference to the pain they inflict, or in some cases, even a sense of enjoyment derived from that pain. A person who lacks empathy will rarely, if ever, show concern for the emotional states of those around them. If someone is hurting or struggling, they may dismiss it outright or respond with cold indifference. They might say things like, "Why are you upset over something so trivial?" or "You need to stop being so sensitive." Their responses not only invalidate your feelings, but can also make you feel isolated and unworthy of attention or support. In their eyes, the suffering of others is inconsequential, or it might even be seen as something that can be used to further their own agenda. What makes this lack of empathy especially dangerous is that it often becomes a tool for manipulation and control. For instance, an evil person might deliberately cause harm, knowing that it will elicit an emotional response from you. They might take pleasure in seeing you hurt, as it gives them a sense of power or superiority. This is evident in abusive relationships, where the abuser feeds off the emotional pain of their victim. They may escalate their behavior just to provoke an emotional reaction, which in turn gives them more leverage to continue their harmful behavior. In some cases, an evil person may mask their lack of empathy with a facade of caring, but it's typically superficial. They might act concerned in public or when there is something to gain from appearing compassionate, but in private they show no real concern for your well-being. They may even take advantage of your vulnerability, using your trust and openness against you. Their apparent kindness is a mere tool to manipulate you, and their empathy is reserved only for when it serves their own selfish needs. When their motives are exposed, their lack of true empathy becomes painfully obvious. Moreover, this emotional detachment often translates into a disregard for ethical or moral standards. Evil individuals are prone to behaving in ways that harm others, even when the consequences are clear. They may lie, cheat, or deceive others with little to no guilt because they don't view these actions as causing harm. They can justify their wrongdoings, convincing themselves that they deserve whatever they gain, regardless of the suffering they cause in the process. They may look at others' misfortune with cold detachment, viewing it as a means to an end or simply as something beneath their concern. This complete disregard for the emotional and psychological welfare of others makes them particularly dangerous. It's not just that they don't care, they actively fail to recognize the humanity in others, and this inability to connect on a basic human level allows them to cause harm without hesitation or remorse. It is a chilling trait, for it reflects the absence of compassion and the presence of something far darker. Another telltale sign of an evil person is their pattern of deception. Lies, deceit, and manipulation are essential tools for those who seek to control others or pursue selfish interests without regard for the truth. For an evil person, the truth is often malleable, something that can be twisted and distorted to suit their agenda. They will lie effortlessly, fabricating stories, making false promises, and presenting a false version of reality. The more they lie, the less they feel bound by any moral obligation to be truthful, and over time their sense of what is right and wrong becomes blurred, as they begin to see deception as just another way to get what they want. A deceptive person will rarely tell the truth unless it directly benefits them, and even then, the truth is often wrapped in layers of half-truths or selective omissions. They are strategic in their dishonesty, crafting their stories carefully to create a sense of trust or to avoid suspicion. In some cases, they might use lies to undermine others. For example, they may spread rumors or tell falsehoods about someone to ruin their reputation, all while pretending to be the one offering help or guidance. They use lies as weapons to achieve their goals, whether that's to elevate their own standing, to create confusion, or to manipulate people into making decisions that serve them. Deception doesn't always take the form of outright lies. Sometimes it's more subtle. An evil person might mislead others by withholding critical information, creating a false impression, or using silence to their advantage. They might misrepresent their intentions, leading others to believe they are acting out of kindness or goodwill when in fact they are doing so with ulterior motives. This type of deception is especially dangerous because it can be difficult to detect. People often trust someone who is not actively lying, but rather withholding vital truths or painting a misleading picture. Over time, these small deceptions can add up, and the evil person may find that they've created an entire network of lies built to serve their long-term objectives. The more manipulative and deceitful an individual becomes, the more likely they are to push others away from the truth. In relationships, whether personal, professional, or familial, they will sow confusion and distrust, ensuring that the people around them can never quite figure out what's real and what's not. They might tell different stories to different people, making it difficult for others to piece together the truth. By doing so, they create an environment of uncertainty and chaos, where their lies are the only constant. In this way, the manipulator maintains control. They keep others questioning their own perceptions and are thus able to navigate situations in their favor. Evil individuals will also employ gaslighting, a form of psychological manipulation where they cause others to doubt their own memory, perception, or sanity. This technique is often used in relationships, where the deceiver may insist that something didn't happen the way the victim remembers it, or that their feelings and experiences are invalid. Over time, the victim may start to lose their grip on reality, making them more dependent on the manipulator's version of events. Gaslighting is incredibly effective in diminishing a person's sense of self and their ability to trust their own judgment, which is exactly what the evil person wants. They want to create an atmosphere of confusion where they can remain the authority and manipulate at will. The act of deception is not just a tool for achieving immediate goals, it also serves as a means to control the narrative. Evil individuals are adept at rewriting reality to fit their needs. They might selectively alter details to place themselves in a favorable light or to cast others in a negative one. This can be especially dangerous in public settings, where their lies can have widespread consequences. By distorting facts and events, they ensure that the truth is buried, allowing them to manipulate the perception of others without facing consequences. The most alarming part of this pattern of deception is the ease with which it becomes a part of their everyday behavior. Over time, the evil person may not even be fully aware of how much they lie, because it becomes second nature to them. They lie not just to get what they want, but because they've learned to see lying as a tool for navigating the world. To them, the truth is simply an obstacle to be avoided, a barrier to achieving their personal desires. As a result, they may even lie about trivial matters, even when it serves no obvious purpose, simply because they have no moral compass to guide them. A desire for power and control is perhaps one of the most defining traits of an evil person. It goes beyond mere ambition or the natural human desire to achieve and succeed. For an evil individual, the pursuit of power is not about personal growth or fulfilling their potential. It is about dominating others, bending them to their will, and using their influence to manipulate people, circumstances, and outcomes in their favor. The need to control others is often rooted in a deep sense of insecurity or a lack of self-worth, where power becomes the only way to compensate for feelings of inadequacy or fear of losing control. They crave this dominance not just for the sake of achievement, but because it gives them a sense of superiority, and more importantly, it makes them feel invincible. The evil person's desire for control is often subtle at first, creeping into relationships in ways that seem innocuous. They may initially appear helpful, offering guidance or assistance in a manner that seems benevolent. However, this help often comes with strings attached. They will subtly maneuver situations so that you feel indebted to them or reliant on their support, making it difficult to escape their influence. This could manifest in something as simple as offering favors with a hidden agenda, or making others feel like they owe them something in return. Over time, this builds a dynamic where the individual creates a power imbalance, where they hold the upper hand, and others feel increasingly dependent on them. As their need for control intensifies, the evil person will begin to assert more overt power over their environment and the people within it. They might manipulate situations so that others are forced into positions where they are powerless, either by making them feel inadequate or by isolating them from potential sources of support. The goal is always to ensure that the individual remains the focal point of the situation, the one who is seen as indispensable, and the one who others must rely on. They might discourage independence or self-reliance in others, making it clear that others cannot do it without them, which only serves to tighten their grip over the people around them. At the extreme end of this desire for control, evil individuals will engage in behaviors designed to dominate others fully. They might resort to intimidation, coercion, or even fear tactics to maintain their power. In abusive relationships, this might mean exerting physical or emotional violence to keep someone in a position of submission. They will tear down anyone who challenges their authority, belittling, bullying, or threatening others to ensure their control is never questioned. They don't just seek authority in a collaborative or constructive way, they pursue absolute control, and they do so at any cost. They may isolate a person from their friends and family, ensuring they have no outside support and are left to rely solely on them. Even in less overtly harmful settings, such as workplaces or social groups, the evil individual will seek to maintain dominance by undermining those around them. They may take credit for others' work, belittle the achievements of their colleagues, or create a competitive atmosphere where everyone feels that they are in constant conflict for the evil person's approval or validation. They do not just want to lead, they want to be the center of attention and the ultimate authority, where everyone else revolves around them. This sense of control becomes so important that it consumes their every action, and they will go to great lengths to maintain it, even at the expense of others' well-being. One of the most insidious aspects of their pursuit of power is how they use guilt and emotional manipulation to reinforce their control. They are expert at making others feel responsible for their happiness or success, ensuring that any failure or issue is framed as the fault of the people around them. If something goes wrong, they will shift the blame to others, using emotional pressure to make those around them feel that it's their duty to fix the problem. This keeps the focus on the manipulator as the victim, with everyone else feeling responsible for keeping the peace or satisfying the person in control. When they are in a position of power, evil people are often blind to the harm they cause. Their ability to manipulate and dominate others makes them feel invincible, and they develop a sense of entitlement. They begin to believe that the world should revolve around their needs and desires. In their eyes, others are mere pawns to be used and discarded, and their actions will be justified, no matter how destructive or cruel. The more power they accumulate, the less they are held accountable for their actions, which only feeds their need for control even further. This unrelenting desire for power can be seen in many toxic figures throughout history and in various personal relationships. From dictators who manipulate entire populations to individuals in positions of leadership who oppress and exploit their subordinates, the desire for power is a dangerous and corrupting force. The evil person sees power as a means to an end, and once they acquire it, they will stop at nothing to preserve it, often leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. A defining trait of an evil person is their refusal to take accountability for their actions. This lack of responsibility is not merely a passive avoidance of fault, it is a calculated and deliberate effort to shirk any form of blame, to deny the consequences of their actions, and to avoid any recognition of wrongdoing. Accountability is a cornerstone of moral behavior. It involves owning up to mistakes, learning from them, and taking steps to amend harm done. For an evil person, however, admitting fault is a sign of weakness or vulnerability that they cannot afford. To them, admitting any sort of mistake threatens their illusion of control, their power, or their standing in the eyes of others. Thus, they go to great lengths to avoid it. One of the most telling signs of an evil person's refusal to take accountability is their tendency to shift blame onto others. No matter the situation, they will always find a way to deflect responsibility. If something goes wrong, they will quickly point the finger at someone else, making them the scapegoat for whatever failure has occurred. It doesn't matter if the fault clearly lies with them. An evil person will twist the facts or create a narrative where they emerge as the innocent party and others are left to shoulder the blame. This creates a distorted reality where the person is never wrong and the burden of their actions is always passed on to someone else. The more they do this, the more they cultivate a sense of guilt and shame in those around them, often making others feel they are the cause of the problem or that they failed in some way. They may even go so far as to manipulate situations so that the consequences of their actions are obscured, distracting others from the truth. They might use charm, false humility, or emotional manipulation to deflect attention away from their wrongdoings, making others believe that they are in fact the victim. If confronted directly, they will either deny everything, distort the facts, or counterattack by accusing the accuser of wrongdoing. This emotional diversion is a tactic that keeps the focus away from their mistakes, allowing them to escape scrutiny and avoid facing the consequences of their actions. In some cases, an evil person might not just avoid accountability, they might actively work to prevent others from holding them accountable. This can take the form of threats, intimidation, or coercion, where they use their power or influence to silence anyone who might call attention to their actions. They may surround themselves with people who are too afraid or too loyal to question them, ensuring that there is no one who will stand up and challenge their behavior. They create an environment where any attempt at accountability is met with resistance, making it nearly impossible for others to confront the harm they are causing. Moreover, when an evil person does find themselves in a position where they can no longer avoid the truth, they might offer a fake or hollow apology, one that serves only to maintain their facade and avoid further backlash. This apology is rarely genuine. It's more of a strategic move to placate others and restore their image. They will apologize not because they regret their actions or recognize the harm they've caused, but because they understand that not apologizing might result in the loss of power, trust, or control. This kind of apology is self-serving and is typically followed by a repetition of the same harmful behavior, showing that they haven't learned from their mistakes, nor do they care to. What makes their refusal to take accountability particularly dangerous is how it perpetuates a cycle of harm. The more they avoid responsibility, the more they justify their harmful actions in their own mind, reinforcing the idea that they are above reproach. This mindset allows them to act with impunity, knowing that they can manipulate situations to avoid any consequences. They may view themselves as untouchable or superior to others, and this belief only fuels their destructive behavior. As they accumulate more power or influence, they become even more emboldened in their refusal to take responsibility, and those around them become more complicit or subjugated, either because they are too afraid to challenge them, or because they have been manipulated into thinking that the evil person is infallible. This refusal to be accountable also makes them incredibly unreliable and unstable in any environment. If you are working with or interacting with an evil person, you will constantly find yourself second-guessing whether you can trust them. They will often leave others in the lurch, with no clear sense of who is responsible for what. Important tasks may be left unfinished or mismanaged, and any failures will be blamed on others, not on the person who caused them. This lack of reliability makes them toxic in teams, workplaces, and relationships, as others cannot rely on them to uphold their end of the bargain, nor can they trust that the evil person will learn from any mistakes made. Over time, the refusal to take accountability erodes any sense of moral integrity or self-awareness in the person. They become disconnected from the reality of their actions, unable or unwilling to see the impact they have on others. Their lack of accountability is often a reflection of a deep-seated need to maintain control over their image and surroundings, but it also reveals an absence of conscience, an inability to recognize the inherent value of honesty, integrity, and empathy. As they continue to escape responsibility, they are further removed from any sense of remorse or genuine self-improvement. Their actions become more reckless, more damaging, and ultimately more corrosive to those around them.